You look at something that grabs your attention and your thoughts are maybe in this thing, and you think, what is the artist trying to tell, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think this is a very important part, that people interact with the art.
Welcome to the Flying Fruitball, a platform dedicated to the discussion and exploration of art in the creative process. In this episode, I had the chance to talk to the incredible street artist BASE23 about his work. We spoke about the challenges of creating work outside within the environment, about the current state of graffiti, and street art of 21st century. Like every artist I've interviewed so far, I thoroughly enjoyed talking to BASE23, and I really hope you enjoy this interview too. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work.
All right. Okay. I'm my nom de plume, I think you say, is BASE23, and I live in Berlin since 16 and a half years. I'm originally coming from the north of Germany, from Kiel. And this is somehow where the journey started. I started painting graffiti in 89. Then, I did school like everybody else. Then I went to study communication design. My main topic was typography and book design. And after studies, after diploma, I worked as a freelancer. And but since or let's say all the time, I still went out painting, but it was like what you say, the classic graffiti, but it was more focused on character design. So I painted a lot of characters, and after that I went to work as a freelancer, and then I went to Hong Kong for 4 months to work there. And then I got back to my hometown, and the culture shock was not in Hong Kong. It was actually when I got back to my hometown. And I said to myself, okay, it's enough for now. And I moved to Berlin. And that's how it actually started, because in Berlin, let's say the scene there's a lot of art going on, a lot of, like, from the urban background, there's a lot of artists, and there's a lot of contemporary, whatever. There's quite a lot. That was the only option for me to go. And then I actually started exhibiting in the early 2000s or something. And the work I'm doing now, and then I'm done with this question. The work I'm doing now is I would say it just evolved from the character work I did before, because it was quite abstract, geometric, and I was honestly, I was tired of painting characters, because I did this for really a long time. And then I used the geometric and abstract shapes I'm doing now, actually, and so for me, it's kind of part of the characters I used to paint, but it's now, it moved more or less to more installation work and more to abstract painting. And but it's still, I mean, if people look at my work or my former work, actually my friends, they say they can see the evolution in my work, which is I'm kind of really proud of, because it seems natural, it seems organic, the evolution from the character work to the more abstract work I'm doing now.
Do you actually have any examples of your earlier work? Because I know they're not on your website, as far as I know.
Yeah, there's on my Instagram, there's I think it goes 5 years back, and then you can see more of the character work and stuff. Because when I did the website, I wanted to start with more the more abstract work. I moved from the characters, and I painted them in a way more abstract, but the installations were like characters. I mean, they were related to robots, because I collect old Japanese robots, and that was my connection with that. But on my website, it's let's say it's how do you say this in English? I mean, it's a new time, or artistic time for me.
It's like a new chapter, I guess.
Exactly, chapter is the right word. Yeah, exactly. It's a new chapter, and what I focus on is like what I did the last 2.5 years, where it went more in the abstract way, and I enjoyed more and more to build actually work, and that's what I actually enjoy the most, to build and paint, to do a work that is like quite huge, or in an environment or room, or interacts more with people. I mean, a painting is cool, but it's on a wall, it's two-dimensional, like in a classic way. And I prefer actually to work outside or inside, but more with installation work.
Yeah, I guess it's the tangibility of it, like that somebody goes in and they experience it as opposed to just see it. And I could definitely want to get into that a bit more later. I've got that's definitely down on the list of things to talk about. But just before we get into more in depth of your work, where does your name BASE23 come from?
Okay, it's just when I started with graffiti, I started actually with the name Magic, because at that time I was a big fan of the Los Angeles Lakers and of Magic Johnson, and I choose Magic because it was my favorite player, and it still is actually. It's but I'm not playing basketball much, actually, not. No, but anyway, and then I choose more a really classic graffiti name. It sounds really base. It's like, it's very, in a way, traditional in the world of graffiti. Base is, yeah, it's let's say quite common. And the 23 is related to a German movie I saw with a friend. But nowadays, the 23 is more, because of my work is two-dimensional and three-dimensional. And it fits to the 23, because the 23 I use for really quite a long time. But it is related to the movie, where it's about conspiracy theories. It's actually based on a true story of hackers who worked in the 80s in Germany for the KGB. And the movie is really interesting because it's half documentary in a way. And they got really obsessed with the 23 in a kind of, but we made a joke out of it, because we were like, because in the movie they see everywhere the number 23. They are really like, look at the car plate, there's number 23. And it was quite fun in the shared apartment. And at that time we were like figuring out, hey man, we live in house number 23, so we made it a joke, the conspiracy thing. And it has a relation, because the graffiti writers in New York, they chose a name, and then they had the number of the street they are living in. So the other graffiti writers can identify, this guy is from the 147th Street, so he lives in the Bronx. And so we choose in a way like, okay, we are living in house number 23. So it has a little funny relation to New York, and it was more or less a joke. But nowadays, I think it fits quite well, because I'm doing two-dimensional and three-dimensional work. That's in one number.
That's like super interesting. That's a really interesting concept, actually. And actually, it's interesting how it actually came full circle in terms of like it works well for your work now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So you started in the 80s, as you said. Can you talk a bit
Yeah.
about how the graffiti scene has changed since then, and what are your thoughts on the current status of it now?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a old guy who's complaining about technology or
Oh
anything.
no, no, absolutely not. I think I'm curious. I'm personally curious about your opinion of it because I think I don't get a chance to talk to people who have been working for such a long time.
Yeah, it's like I would say in general, I think everything uh, is good, the evolution, because it's more and more people who are who like graffiti a lot, or they see a lot on the internet. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's sometimes people think it was good, let's say back in the days where you swap photos of graffitis and send letters and magazines and stuff. But I would say nowadays the scene is really huge, and it's connected worldwide through Instagram and more or less Facebook. But I would say there's actually in my opinion, this is a really great evolution because uh, let's say because of the urban art, street art movement, which is, I mean, both fields are connected definitely, but it's like it was really good for the evolution of graffiti itself, I think, because I still like the, let's say, old school work of New York, or I like, of course, my friends' work I like because I know them for really a long time and stuff. And some are more related to the classical New York writing, the typical graffiti writing. But I, actually, I like everything because it's you have the classic and then you have the post graffiti, which is more in a way. I wouldn't say it's more artistic because everything is artistic, but it opens new doors or new fields for graffiti artists, or they opened them for themselves because they got more and more influenced, and the exchange is way more faster. And it's I mean, you can on Instagram you have so many really brilliant artists, I think you can reach in seconds in a way, which is, I think it's really good for the connection and for your own evolution, because of course everybody is inspired by other work. I mean, it doesn't mean that he's copying stuff. It's just like you get more and more inspired by other work, and of course other fields. When you run around in the cities or anything, everybody has his own inspiration fields, or architecture or music, theater, whatever it is. But I think I mean I think it's a, in a way it's a good evolution, because you have the hardcore graffiti writers who still paint a lot of trains, what I really like, and I admire all these people going out at night and doing this, because this is how, I mean, this is the essence of graffiti writing, or this is the basic of graffiti writing. This is how it started, and that's why a lot of people still doing it. I mean, and yeah, I just, I mean, of course, there's a lot of stuff that I mean, that there's work published that you maybe don't want to have published, but people see it, they take photos and they post it on the web, on Instagram or whatever. And the artist or the graffiti writer, they don't want it, but they can't do anything against it. I mean, they can write, "Hey man, take it off your account" or whatever. But it seems like that the bad thing about it or could be, I'm not quite sure about this, but that this is the field is flooded too much with a lot of that. It goes on too fast. People don't take time to actually look at the work. It's just scrolling through your feed, and this makes it a bit more like yeah, in a way, it's hard for me to describe, but let's say it's like a cheap product. You look at it and it's gone. It's I mean, it's not always like that, but
I think it lessens the impact of the work because there's so much of it.
yeah, I mean, if it catches your attention, you look on the account or you look on the website or you check if you can buy a print or book of the artist or whatever. That's true. I mean, this is also another good point. I think that you are able to approach the artists themselves very easy. So if you like the work, it's very easy to buy something or ask, hey, can you send me the book? I will pay you and you can send it over. I mean, it's also good for the let's say for let's say the business side of
Yeah, of
being an
course.
artist. I mean, that's good. I mean, so can't complain. I mean, if I wouldn't have an Instagram account or would say, oh, no, I'm not much into this technique stuff, then we wouldn't talk today.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. I'm always very conscious of that when I talk to people about the technology, and because I'm not personally a huge fan of social media, but I'm also very, very aware that I wouldn't be doing this right now if I didn't use it.
Yeah, it's good.
So my next question for you is, what is the most challenging part of being an artist right now?
What was the
Most challenging part of being an artist?
I mean, regarding the situation at the moment,
Just
or in
regarding
general?
just being an artist in general, and then we'll get to the situation in a minute.
No, yeah. I mean, it is definitely quite tough. Yeah, the most challenging. Yeah, I would like skip the business side actually, because it's, of course, it's not easy to establish your work and to be an artist and live from that. But the most challenging, I don't know. It's at the moment I just wanna go to a festival or exhibition and build something. That would be the most challenging thing to do at the moment. Or you have to find another way to express yourself if you want to go out. I mean, I was actually thinking to do something, to build something and just put it on an abandoned place or something, install some, because there's no other choice at the moment.
Yeah, of
But
course. And how
yeah,
is the current pandemic affecting you and your practice?
yeah, it's really, I mean, like for installation work, it's really bad actually, because it always happens at exhibitions or festivals. And yeah, I was quite surprised because I got an invitation for an art festival in Germany in May, and I hope this will happen because they invited me to build something. Yeah, and hopefully it will work out. I mean, the weather will be way better. I mean, today there was a lot of snow in Berlin, but yeah, almost disappeared again. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to work outside. But anyway, it's that would be great. For everybody, we all hope that it will somehow not disappear. It will not disappear, of course not. This is stupid to think that the pandemic will disappear, but we have another man who said this, but and he was wrong. No, but whatever. But you know what I mean. It's like I'm looking forward, and I hope to do something in summer, because it affected me in a way that in like exhibitions got postponed, and installation projects got postponed, and I hope they still will happen this year. But it was yeah, tough year for everybody, I guess.
Absolutely, and a lot of the artists I've spoken to so far have said that it's been tough to create work. It's been, in a way, it's been good because their reach is better in terms of their audience, but then also it's been tougher on them to create work themselves. And I imagine you're pretty much in the same position in terms of, like, particularly you, because you create installations that require at least a team of people and or the space to do so. And actually, let's get into talking a bit about your work. What I like to do is talk a bit about some series inside, some series outside, and also some of your installations, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Cool, that's perfect. So I have my notes here. So let's start with the work inside. So you had a series called On Display, and there were like these really interesting images that were like cracked screens and in relation to technology. Could you just talk a bit about them and kind of the process behind it and kind of the ideas behind it?
The idea about was that like now, I mean, we talk through a screen or computer, and in a lot of time of our life we look at a screen. Actually, if it's a computer, a television, or a mobile, most of the time, I guess. And I think that is how we look a bit on our environment. I mean, we walk through the street, but we look on our phone, which is it's a kind of a distraction in a way. I mean, it doesn't mean you got rolled over by a bus because you look on your phone, but it can happen anyway.
Of course.
No, but no, but in general, it's like that we like we see a lot of our world, let's say. That was the intention, the idea, through a screen. And what happens if this world, I would say, the not the real world, I mean the world
Like the virtual world.
virtual world, exactly, yeah. And if this is disturbed, so because I mean, you dropped your mobile, or your computer fell off your table, or whatever, or out of your bag or anything, so there's something gone. But it was for me quite interesting, because the aesthetics of a broken screen, I find, because this is a kind of a destroyed world, but I think it's beautiful. I mean, it looked really nice. A broken screen, when you turn it on, looks really beautiful. And it, I mean, this is not something that is created. It's created by an accident, but it has some aesthetic that looks really interesting. And so I used it, and I built the canvases the same as sizes of screens, like laptop
Oh
screen,
wow, that's so
screen.
cool.
So you had the canvas size was always related to a 15-inch laptop screen or whatever. And some of them were like a flat screen you have at home and watch TV or anything. And I painted this series, and I did a lot of research, or let's say I just Googled images of broken screens, and the web is full of it, because a lot of people sell still broken devices. And I found a lot of references, and then I did like a collage of some of them to make one image from. So it's what I painted. It's not really one broken screen. It's a collage of the aesthetics I liked from some of the broken screens, or the photos I had as references. And yeah, then I made the whole installation. And I think it's quite funny, because people go to an exhibition and they see, because maybe they don't recognize what it looks like, but it's everything on the wall is like broken screens, which is funny in a way, I thought. And I chose names I found on the web, when people had these quotes, or when they were trying to sell, and they said, yeah, it might be repairable, but you can see on the photo it's completely crashed, which
Yeah,
I
that's what
think
I
is
was going to ask you about the titles, because that's one thing I noticed, that the titles are really, really interesting, and they're
yeah.
quite unusual, and they made me really think about the work in terms of like, why did you decide to name them that? And that's actually a really good way of finding titles for works, actually. And all of your pieces of work have interesting titles. I think
Yeah,
you're very good at conjuring, kind of creating titles that are ambiguous, that don't quite tell you the whole story, of what the piece is. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine from UK, David Walker, he helped me because we used to share a studio in Berlin, and I always ask him because I said, okay, look at this title, what do you think? So in the end, I had the show in Nottingham, and I don't want to mix up German English, it doesn't, I have to ask a native speaker, but it was actually quotes I found on the web. So, and I asked him, what do you think about this and that helped actually a lot for the for the titles. But for example, the one Susie dropped her tablet, which I really like, it's really funny. It was interesting in the show because there was a couple, and I explained to them the concept. And I mean, Susie dropped her tablet is in a, let's say, in a classic way, it could be a tablet where she served a menu or something, right? And on the other hand, in nowadays, a lot of people would think, okay, it's an electronic device. And then the couple said, yeah, you know what? We like this, what you choose for the title, but it could also mean that when you say it, that she dropped an ecstasy pill, like a tablet.
Oh yeah, no, of course.
That
Yeah.
could be. I mean, that was a third meaning out of it, quite funny. Like if you look at it,
Yeah, and that's actually a really interesting correlation to the broken screens and this idea of it being, very kind of distorted and you're
yeah.
uncertain of what you're looking at. That's really great. I like that a lot. That's amazing. And do you think that because obviously you do a lot of exhibitions and you do a lot of installations and you get feedback from real life people, do you think that the feedback you get within your exhibitions is more constructive than you do necessarily online? Like, is the feedback different?
Yeah, it's definitely because it's quicker to exchange when you talk in person to someone. I mean, it's different than online. I mean, there's a lot of like comments, which is a feedback, of course. I mean, but I think when you are at your work and people standing next to you and you talk about the work, it's way more intense in a way, I would say, or because you point at something or you have the physical space and you act with your work and stuff. So I think it's something different. I mean, it can work like now for like a Zoom call or something, but yeah, the environment is, I mean, is always really important, I think, to uh, to have a better reaction of people themselves as well, because the written word can be lead to a lot of misunderstanding, I think.
Very much so.
it
Yeah, very much so.
I have it with friends sometimes.
Yeah, because there's no like emotion behind it. You don't quite know what the context is.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
I think that's kind of probably like the danger. I guess in a way, the danger of only sourcing feedback online is that you're never quite sure. Yeah, the
Yeah, and
intention.
I think, like for me as a German, maybe something I get something wrong in English, but it was not meant to be like that, and I take it like I don't know, like it's not a constructive feedback. It's just like, yeah, I don't like your work. Okay, this I can understand, but if it's said in other words.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because sometimes you can't really be sure what somebody means, so that's the problem. And I think, and it's hard to clarify without talking face to face, or it's hard to clarify without
Yeah, that's what I mean.
knowing the person
That's
as
what I
well.
mean, that I have it with friends who I know for years, but sometimes you are in a rush and you just text back and they get it
Of course.
really wrong, but it was not meant to be like that. So yeah, but in general I think it's and it's something different if as an artist, are next to your work, or let's say you are in a gallery and have a show, or you are in a group show and you talk about your work, but then you say, look at this guy, what he did, like when you have a group show of people, different artists, it's more human, actually, too.
And I'm assuming that's probably the better way to kind of talk about, get experience of talking about your work as well, and also seeing people's real reactions to it.
Yeah. I think this is the most important. It's quite funny because we just talked with friends about it, that it's really important that you get feedback for your work. And I mean, if I tell my parents, they are like, yeah, we like the colors, or I mean, they're not, of course it's your parents, they like what you are doing.
Of course, yeah.
But it's like,
Of course.
it's and if I tell them about the concept, even if they don't ask for it, but it's really interesting, their reaction, because they understand the work more, and then they enjoy it more, actually. I mean, and you know what I mean, in general, they see the surface
Of course.
in a way. I mean, of course, the visual is the first impression you get, the visual impression, but if you talk about the idea and stuff, then it's I think most of the work is way more interesting then.
Is it important for you that people do understand your work?
That they not only look at it, and you mean that they also think about
Yes,
it?
that they actually understand. Yes, they don't just go, okay, this is a really cool, piece of graffiti, or this is a really cool sculpture, or okay, this is what am I looking at? That they actually understand what they are actually.
Yeah, I think this is really important, because what I don't like, if people, it's the same for myself, to be honest. If I go to an exhibition and I have to read uh, 2 A4 sheets of paper to understand what's really going on, then I think, okay, maybe uh, I don't know, but in general, I think the idea is the most important part of the work, because I try to do work that is based on an idea, and then I choose a solution, what I want to do, what colors, what shape and stuff. First of all, like, the best example for me is at an exhibition. So I look at the room or the space where I will build something, and then I think about uh, the idea, what I really want to do, and then I start to actually start building, or start. First of all, I build usually a mock-up out of cardboard, and see how it works in a smaller scale, but it's all based on an idea. This is, for me, the most important thing, because I mean, you can do something beautiful that's just beautiful, that's good, but for me, it's very important that it has an idea what I'm doing.
And do you think that art should be thought provoking? It should make people stop and actually look at it. Like, or do you think it's okay if it is just like a beautiful piece of work, or do you think it has to have depth?
Do you think that art has to, in a way, disturb, or that people enjoy,
Yes.
or I mean, who am I to tell people what art should do to somebody? But I think in general,
Just in your opinion.
I think, in my opinion, it should definitely reach out to the people in a way, if it's visual, or by sound, or by whatever, like a barrier where they have to climb over to see actually a painting or something. I don't know, because then people are interacting automatically with the work, which is a good part of art, that people interact with it. And I mean, I have been in the Louvre in Paris, for example, and I thought, okay, no problem. I can easily look at all the paintings. But in the end, I was almost running through the Louvre to see all paintings, because it was way too much to spend a proper time at each painting.
Yeah.
So, but in general, I think it's good when you get the attention of people, that they just stand still and look at it, which is because it's about time, right? If people spend time for your work,
Absolutely.
this is very luxury in a way, because they don't scroll through a feed. They just stand there and look at your work, which is yeah, great actually. So that's why I think that's what art should do, because in a way your life, everything around you is maybe of course you have your thoughts and whatever, but in general you are at a specific place, even if it's a museum and you look at a painting, so you are in a different world in a way, you know, because
Yeah.
you look at something that grabs your attention, and your thoughts are maybe in this thing, and you think, what is the artist trying to tell, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think this is a very important part, that people interact with the art.
I want to talk a bit about your work outside as well, because I think that's a really interesting consideration in terms of like what I like about you and your practice and your work that I've done. I was on your website last night. I did a lot of going through it and a lot of looking at your work in a bit more depth and kind of really kind of looking at it and appreciating it. To be honest, your work is very
Thank you.
interesting. But I think what's interesting about your work is that because you create installations, you create work that you create like prints, and then you also create images outside in the environment on walls. I think you have a very interesting insight into the way the kind of viewer artist interaction in terms of the way that the different environments and different places you put your work can change the way people look at it.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about your work outside. So what kind of challenges do you face when creating work outside?
Uh, yeah, what is the challenge? Sometimes, I mean, the places I like most are abandoned places, and friends of mine, honestly, they are really into it, and they search for them, and they take me, yeah, with them to the places, and which is always interesting, because you see a different part of the city where you usually don't go. You know, it's an abandoned place, or most of the time we drive outside the city, so you see places usually go, and they are always interesting, because it's a it's a relic of a time, you know. It's like, let's say it's an abandoned military base, and it used to be in the GDR. Then you know, okay, this is 30 over 30 years old, and they used to be soldiers, and now we are running around there and painting, which is quite quite strange in a way. But I think this is yeah, this is what I like most, because when we go to these places, we try to do work that somehow fits in the environment as well, and we keep structures of the walls, and maybe like from the composition side, it interacts with the roof, or the whatever, or doors, or anything. And this is, it is way more interesting than to just paint a blank wall, you know.
Yeah, so you're trying to kind of almost, I guess, in a way, improve the space, or at least work with the space, as opposed to working against it and just kind of defacing it.
Yeah, it's more that you want to place your artwork in a environment that it's part of the environment, and not like something misplaced in a way, you know. That is quite challenging, because you look for a spot, and then you see a nice wall, but then you see another maybe where there's a broken window, and you think, I can do something that connects to the broken window, just an example. And this is the really interesting part of it, actually. And it's really interesting just to take photos and run around. And
Oh, absolutely. I've never done any kind of like urban exploring kind of photography, but it's something I'd totally built for doing because that'd be really cool. It's just, I think it's also because the environment's so different. It's so quiet and it's so still.
yeah, exactly.
And I think
Yeah.
that kind of is, yeah, like the atmosphere is very different. And I think it must be weird. It must be weird to be in that situation because it's, you know, as you said, it's away from everybody else. You're kind of alone with your thoughts more. And I guess in a way, like you would be in a museum or a gallery space.
Yeah, it's completely different, because you go to places where maybe photographers go, but and other graffiti writers as well, but in general it's something that is, these places feel really untouched when they are broken or abandoned, but they feel really untouched in a way. So if you paint there, it's it's like an old whatever factory or military base, and then you put something new inside, and then uh, you have a really high contrast, the contrast between your, let's say, new work or your work you are doing, your painting, and the old abandoned or old torn down wall, which is it's a perfect contrast, actually, in my opinion. Like from aesthetically point of view, it's really.
Yeah, I imagine so. Aesthetically, I imagine so. I imagine it'd be really, yeah, really visually interesting, visually striking, I imagine. So at what point do you think that graffiti or street art can become vandalism?
For me, it's not vandalism. I'm the, for me, it's for me, like if some people go like putting up their tags in the street, of course it is vandalism, because it's not your property or anything. And if you paint a train, it's not your property, so it's vandalism because it's not allowed, like from a like state point of view, I don't know, or from
Yeah.
government. But it's like, for me, I'm the wrong person. I had one discussion with a friend, which is a good example. He said to me, yeah, but do you like all the tags in the streets? Do you like the chrome bombings, like the big letters and stuff? And I said, hey, honestly, I like everything, because for me this is life. And it's like, for me, when I walk through a street and there's a lot of text, I read all the time, because I read the text, and it's like walking through a book in a way. I mean, it's not full sentences or anything, but it's really interesting. And then he said to me, but it would be, if it would be your house and they tag your house. And I said, hey, for how long do we know each other? If I would own a house, I would have painted it myself already,
That's a good point, actually. But yeah, that's actually a really good point you raise it, because it's like the city almost becomes a story. It's about the history of the place. It's like a history in a different way.
It is, yeah, because you have, like, of course, people paint over it, and they clean the houses in a way so they, if there's tags, then you see there was something because somebody painted over it. And it's um, what I like about the fact that it's not forever. It's always something refreshing, something new. And it's honestly was the same with my installations, because all my installations I did for exhibitions or festivals, they were torn down because there was no
Oh,
space to put them somewhere.
yeah, of course, yeah.
And then for me it has the same spirit as graffiti, because graffiti got removed as well. And I like the idea that my installations are not there anymore, because people say, oh, you spend so much time and hard work and material and stuff. And I said, yeah, I agree. And I like the fact that some of the material got reused, because it's wood, so you can reuse it for other works, and you can paint over it anyway. But I like the fact that it's not forever. Actually, it has the spirit for me of graffiti, because there's only one installation that survived, but all the other ones, they are just gone.
That was actually my next question was, do you care if your work gets painted over or demolished? And I'm assuming you probably don't then. You don't mind.
No, I think no. If I paint somewhere and somebody tags inside or whatever is going over it, like is doing another artwork over it. This is the lifestyle. I don't know if you can say that, but this is a lifestyle.
It's like the spirit of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the spirit of graffiti. So I don't mind if somebody is painting over it. There was, let's say in the 90s or something, there was this kind of rule: if you paint over somebody, it has to be better than the piece before. But nowadays, people just paint. If this is a permitted wall you have, and kids go there and they try to spray paint and stuff, which is okay. I mean, it's, if you paint there, somebody will paint there as well, of course, and then he paints over your piece. So I don't care. It's there was friends of mine, they run a store in Berlin, and they asked me to paint the shutters, and the shutters had tags and chrome letters and stuff. And then a guy on Instagram, he wrote, but he's right in a way. He said, is this graffiti against graffiti? Because the shop owners asked me to paint the shutters. And then I did, and I painted over some tags and stuff. So he said, is it graffiti over graffiti because people think the other stuff looks nice? And I said, no, it's not against. It's just friends who ask me to paint because they are not much into graffiti and tags, but they like a painting or the work I do. They like it. So, and then he said, "Yeah, but what happens if somebody tags in or paints over it?" And then I say, "Yeah, okay." Then it's the law of the street in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just part of the process. It's part
Yeah,
of the natural
yeah,
process of it.
exactly.
Where do you draw the distinction between art and graffiti? Like at what point would you say like your work is art and your work is graffiti, or is there no distinction?
No, I think not, because graffiti is art. I mean, in the end, graffiti is an artistic expression that was uh, or that evolved from a youth culture. This never happened in human life before. Graffiti was just came out of a youth culture or of teenagers. So, and it's an artistic expression. Why is it not art? I mean, if people don't like tags in the street, that doesn't mean that it's not an artistic expression. People say, I can't read it, so it's ugly, and so I don't like it because it's vandalism, it's not allowed. That's okay, they can't read it. It is vandalism, but it doesn't mean that it's not artistic, So for me, graffiti and art is graffiti is art actually. So, but you can say it's not so well executed or whatever, but it's the same with paintings in a museum. You can say the same with that you don't like it or whatever. So no, uh, I wouldn't separate in a way. I mean, you can say, okay, art is usually happening in a gallery space or in a museum or whatever exhibition space, and graffiti is happening outside. But why not? Is the whole streets or the whole city and gallery? You can, if you look at graffiti, it can be this is a gallery.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that attitudes behind it have changed a lot?
The attitude that people like respect more graffiti art.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Or like the idea of graffiti, or at least street art by definition, in terms of art on walls, has changed a lot in the last, say 10,
Yeah,
20 years.
definitely. I mean, it's like that's what I said before, because the street art, urban art movement, it opened the doors for graffiti as well. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it's I think there's a big evolution because it got more and more feedback from from the people living in the city and see huge murals, or people go more to gallery shows, and it open up in a way, let's say from the business side, a new market, because there's more galleries focused on street art, graffiti and stuff.
Absolutely.
So there's it got more and more accepted by the public. I mean, there's still the thing is if it's legal or not.
Of course.
But in general, there was some more acceptance, right? Acceptance. In the whole whatever, in the whole art environment, I would say. I mean, it got more and more back into the galleries, as well as it was, let's say, in the 90s and stuff. So I think it's a really great evolution of the graffiti or street art, whatever it is, art world, that it got more and more into the art market.
And do you think that it's at risk of becoming too commercial?
I mean, it happened in the 80s, it got commercialized, it happened in the 90s, now it happens even more because you see it on the web. There was not much, I mean, in the end 90s, yes, but before that, not. So you recognize it in different mediums at the moment. I mean, online in any way, on your mobile or laptop or whatever. And if it gets more commercialized, it always depends on the artist who is doing it. I mean, it's not every artist is doing commercial works in a way. It's like I think it's not bad, because like myself, I do commission work as well, so I can make a living out of it. What is bad about it? You know, if you are well paid,
Absolutely.
and in the end, everybody has to decide for himself. So I don't judge on people who are doing it or people who are don't do it. You know, it's everybody's choice. Let's say a big company is not forcing you to paint a graffiti for them, or do an artwork, or a stencil or paste up or whatever. You know, you got hired, you got a job, and if you want to do it, you do it. You know, and I don't judge on anybody how they make their money and how they survive. You know.
No, true, absolutely. I think that's a good mentality to have, though, as opposed to being like, oh no, that artist is doing this, which is, way too commercial, and it's changing, say, like the industry, or people are going to be looking at it like about how much money they can make. And I think, that's a good mentality to have. I think that's a great mentality to have.
Yeah, because I think it's for the artists is, I mean, even if you do a commission work and you change your style in a way, then it's a commissioned work. It doesn't relate to your art, right? It's a commissioned work. It's like I mean, I studied graphic design, communication design, so I know how it is to work for clients. And it's honestly, my client work, I don't show it to many people, just my friends, or I don't put it on my website.
Of course.
Because it has nothing to do with my art. This is the only separation it has, in my opinion. But yeah, everybody should do whatever they like.
I think that's a great piece of advice, to be honest. 'Cause I think for a lot of artists that are starting out, I think it's really that balancing act of making money but also doing things you like. And I think it's it can be really hard for people to kind of understand and figure out how to balance that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But if you, I mean, you can also enjoy a commissioned work if your client gives you a lot of freedom and they say, we love your art and we want that you do this for us, but you don't, but we want to have exactly what you are doing, then it's perfect, right? I mean,
So win-win.
yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on the company, you know, I mean,
Yeah, it depends on the compromise.
yeah, but and then I mean, you don't have to do it. You still can think, okay, I don't want to do a job for a company who is producing parts of machine guns, something. Or I mean, this is
Yeah. Something that might go against your morals or something like that, for
exactly,
instance.
but this you can decide for yourself. I mean, there's another little story. There was some graffiti writers who did commercial work for a big fast food chain, I would say, and so they got hired to do work and to post it on their Instagram because they have a lot of followers and a lot of people see it. So the client pays for that, that they post the artworks and tell about the story about when they had their first burger or whatever bullshit like this,
Yeah.
just, I mean, this completely commercial
Yeah.
work. And they got really, really a lot of bad comments. People were really
Oh,
freaking out. And so in the end, they just disabled the comment section, that you can't comment on Instagram, because there were people like, what the fuck, do you know this company, what they are doing? And they were aware of the pollution, stuff. I mean,
of course, yeah. And I think that's kind of in a way it's a bit of a problem. I think it must be a problem for artists. I don't know how many artists how much artists thinks about that. It's actually a really good point you raised, because I think, how much research do you actually do into the clients you undertake work for? Do you actually do a lot of research into
yeah,
them?
yeah, and I think it was not the the artists doing the work. They know all this because they are not 16 anymore, so they are quite educated and they know what they are doing. And I don't judge on them that they did it, but I would say I would not do it. It's like,
Fair enough.
but it's everybody's choice. But then you have to live with the consequences in a way, because you put it on your Instagram. You use your Instagram as a platform to promote a product of a company, which they paid for, which is okay, but it just depends on you, on yourself. I mean, if it's like, hey, I have to do it because I have two children at home and we have to make money to survive, then I can
Of
completely
course.
understand and I don't judge. But you have to live with the consequences, because a lot of artists are really aware of this, like for whom you work, or if it's good or not, or something. That's a little side story.
No, that's cool. That's perfect. I love that. That's great. Right, let's get back to your work a bit, I think. Let's talk about your installations. That's what's really caught my eye and really fascinated me. I think they're really, really fascinating, and they're very, very different, because I think for me, I grew up with like graphitism, I grew up with, Star Wars, things like that, So I've always seen graffiti on walls, but I've never seen it kind of transformed within the environment in terms of installations. And I think that's, such a unique idea. Like, I don't know. I saw it and I was really like, I was just fascinated by it. And I think that's probably a good thing. But I was just really fascinated with it. But let's talk a bit about some of your installations then. Let's talk a bit about Elephant in the Room, because I think this is a particularly interesting installation. Can you talk a bit about that particular installation, why you decided to create it, and obviously what it consisted of?
um, yeah, it started because of a friend, Onur, who is a great painter, I think, and he got offered a huge space to paint something on the walls, because uh, uh, yeah, a movie agency, as you can say, they do commercials and they do clips and stuff. They want to have a party for their reopening, and they want to have the room yeah, done by different artists, or they ask him first way. And so he said the room is really too big, because it used to be an old garage, and it was empty, and they want to tear it down and build a new house, whatever it is. And so that started because he asked me if I want to do an installation, and we got a little bit of budget by the company to do this. And I asked for sponsors for wall paint and for spray paint and stuff. So in the end, we worked 10 days on this project, and I had a lot of friends helping. And my idea, for which is, then we come back to the idea, which was for me the most important thing, because the topic elephant in the room was chosen by Onur, by my friend, and he explained what it means to me. And so I said, okay, that there's a problem, or like some, let's say you have a problem in the family and you don't speak with it about it, but everybody knows that there's something cooking. This is what elephant in the room is. And I said, yeah, this is, for me, this is something that is, because it's, the problem is not solved, so it's under construction in a way. So I choose the idea to build an construction site in an abstract way, and in a bigger scale, because I'm not sure if you can, on some photos you can see the size, but it was really huge, the installation. And so I built this construction site, and then the idea was that we painted the whole room as much as possible white, and we painted our works with UV light color. And the idea was, when people go inside the room, everything is white, so it's really calm and silent, because it's an empty space. And there is, there's nothing, I mean, there's nothing disturbing going on. But if you turn on, when you switch the light to UV light, then you have all the bright colors, and then you can identify the images Onur did on the wall, and then you can identify more my installation, which is what was the same idea as a problem that is not that is where people don't speak about it, because it's still calm. But when somebody starts to speak about it, then everybody's temper will get higher. And this is the same as turning on the light or switching the light to UV light, because then you have the effect that there's something hidden in the white room. And that was the main idea, actually.
I think it's a really clever way of interpreting the idea. That's something that's actually not a physical idea into something that is physical. And I think that's what I really intrigued me about it, because it's really weird that it's, for me, like, it's super interesting that you went from like a saying that, you know, a lot of people know is quite common, to actually creating something that's like a tangible physical experience of that screen. I think that's really interesting. And are words and phrases something you look at a lot, or consider a lot within your work?
It's because it's, if you in a way choose a title for your work that people have a relation to, because they know what it means, then it's maybe more easy for them to identify the artwork. You don't have to write to A4 sheets of paper with your whole story on it, what it means. You know, if you have a title of the
Of course.
work, and it's maybe like a quote that is well known, then people can hopefully identify it better. So they got a quicker connection and interaction to the artwork. That is my impression.
And one thing that really struck me about the work itself is that the one of the themes that I got from it was the idea of, you know, what's visible and invisible. I think that it relates very well back to the very act of graffiti itself, in terms of bringing that more to the forefront into a physical space and into people's
Yeah,
conscious. Um, was that something you were thinking about also?
to be honest, no. it's like, it's like, I really like that you related to graffiti in a way. I understand it. It's just to explain that graffiti was not there before, but people put it in the street and confront the people with it. And I never saw a relation of the piece like that, to be honest, to that you have this invisible problem that that not problem, but it changed when you switch the light to UV light. That is something that, yet that you have a white wall of a house outside and somebody tags it, and then there's something else, so something, yeah, something else visible, and it's, yeah, okay, you know, it depends on the point of view, or in the eye of the beholder, if it's disturbing or anything. But it's quite interesting that you mention it, because I never, I mean, of course, I spray painted, but I never had this relation. It's interesting, actually, for me.
Yeah, it's just something, that's something that I got from it when I was
Yeah,
looking at it last night, actually. And I was thinking just about just this whole idea of even
yeah, 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 yeah. That's true, and I think this is in a way disturbing for people, but because they are confronted, but they don't want to be confronted with it. The funny part in general is, for me, nobody complains about advertising in the streets. It's like,
that's something I was going to ask you about as well.
yeah, because for me, it's a one of the when I have people, when I talk to people and we have a conversation and they say, "Oh, this graffiti, it's horrible," blah blah blah. I mean, not many of my friends say that, but if you
Yes, but people will say
people will
that.
say that, exactly. And but nobody complains about big billboards or advertising, because
Yeah,
it's, yeah, it's advertising. It's all right. People pay for it to put up a billboard like that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's disturbing your like your view as well, in a way, or it's not beautiful, and it just has a commercial background, you know. It's not something that an artist did something for you or for the people outside, and want to create something beautiful or something that fits in the public space or anything. It's just a fucking billboard, you know. It's just an advertising. It's just about a product that has to be sold, that I mean, a company gets richer, but of course they pay their employees, blah blah blah. I mean, I don't, want to sound like completely. I mean, this is a natural way. This is how everything works right now.
this is business. That's
Exactly,
business.
that's just a business, but it's quite funny in a way that people don't complain about that. They talk about the graffitis and it looks horrible, but if there's next to it a big billboard, they will never talk about it, which is kind of weird, I think.
Do you think that there should be some more collaboration between companies and artists to create more aesthetically pleasing advertisements?
Yeah, yeah, well, I think it's, yeah, definitely, but it's in a way, advertising, I think, looks like advertising because it's a learned language by the people. It's a visual
Yeah.
language that is learned over decades by people to identify an advertising as an advertising. I think if companies, and I mean, a lot of companies already did that. And they, let's say, if you have a billboard and it's, there's not whatever a new sneaker on it and the logo of the brand or anything, if they do just a billboard in whatever neon yellow, and people will ask, okay, what's this? I mean, it can be something way more different, definitely, but if they
Of
would
course.
exchange the image, nobody will relate it, except if the logo is in the corner, then it could work. But in general, it's yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of artists would do that, and there can be, which is, and it already happened also, the that the artist was given a lot of freedom and to do something different, but it was, I mean, a company always can say it is initiated or supported by XYZ brand, but it can be an
Yeah.
artistic piece. So everybody says or thinks, this looks really beautiful. And okay, this brand they initiated, so it's for the company, it's definitely good because they get a good feedback. So yeah, why not? I mean, it can help to make it more, yeah, whatever. But it's funny in a way, or it's kind of also strange. I'm just wondering if people really care about the billboards. Of course, they see them, but do they care in a aesthetically way? It's just like, I mean, they see just an advertising.
I think personally, I'd say that people who are interested in art and can appreciate art or appreciate creativity would appreciate
Yeah,
that. I think artists will, for sure. I think other artists will. I think a lot of artists appreciate other artists more maybe maybe this is probably not a great thing to say publicly, but I think a lot of artists probably appreciate artists more than a lot of the general public appreciate artists because they understand the
yeah,
process. And I think that something like if I saw a billboard and it was a creative, interesting billboard, I'd be intrigued. I'd be
yeah,
intrigued. So I think it's really a balance. Personally, I think it's like a balance of trying to figure out a way to make things more aesthetically pleasing, whilst also obviously retaining the commercial aspect of business, because obviously things don't to be solved, advertisements don't to happen. But do you think that more companies should be supporting artists?
yeah. I think so. I mean, I mean, you can't tell a company like, yeah, you have to do this more and this, wherever. But I think, like, if we relate it to the times right now, and the government is not able to help the artist, or they do, but not in a way that they all the artists will be whatever surviving or anything, then it would, I think, I'm wondering that a lot of companies, there's really huge companies who make really a lot of money still, or even more in this time. And I'm just wondering, why don't they support the arts, for example? But I would say it's more important, why don't they support more the the health system? Why? I mean, it's
Yeah, of
part
course.
of the state, of course, to take care about it. But if a huge whatever online platform makes a lot of money and even more money than before, why don't they put in money and say, okay, we will work on, or we will support certain hospitals or something like that? Why it doesn't have to be
Of course,
art,
yeah.
it can be everything. I'm just
Of course.
questioning at the moment, why is everything, of course, is the state or the government is responsible for helping people and whatever they are doing. I mean, if it's artists or employees or anything, but it's yeah, it would be more nice if the companies or the big, yeah, the huge, really huge companies would help out more, because they already make a lot of money anyway, and it's about, this is, how life is, or this is how business works. But in general, that would be actually great to hear if, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of wonder why. You kind of wonder why companies that turn over, billions of pounds wouldn't spend, a couple of million to boost the economy, even if it's even not necessarily for the arts, even for, as you said, hospitals, for frontline workers, for instance, even to increase the wages, wages and things like that, or better living conditions, or just kind of put money back in rather than just keep taking out and avoiding paying tax and stuff like that. I think it's
Exactly, yeah.
it's quite a shame, really, because I think that if you did it right, that'd be a great business, a great marketing strategy as well, and a good way to attract like good business as opposed to just kind of being the company that people, yeah, sure, they use, but they're also really aware that it may not be like the most ethical company.
I mean, a lot of companies do something. They donate money uh, for our environment, or they try to figure out. I mean, about the production places or factories they work with, and blah blah blah. But at the moment, I think there's a lot of winners in this pandemic, and if the government can't help as much as they were actually supposed to, because we already, all of us, paid taxes and stuff, it's
Of
like,
course. Of course.
and it's just what I'm wondering about. And in general, of course, companies, I mean, culture in general is really important, I would say, for humankind, because it's, since humankind is on planet Earth, there's always been cultures. So this is really important, and the our culture could not be only online shopping. You know what I mean? It's like
Oh, I agree completely. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's also part of the problem also, for me at least, is that because obviously we'll have to stay at home, rightly so. But I think that's also increased our online time, our screen time and our time that we're spending online. And it's also kind of dividing the human element of being, existing on planet Earth, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And I think it's kind of fragmented the kind of way we talk and the way we have conversations and the way we interact with other people. And I think for areas such as art, I think we probably didn't realize how important the human element of interacting with people and going to see shows and just talking to people about your work in person, how important that actually is for not just your own growth, but just for the conversation of art as a general whole.
yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Just think about the kids or the teenagers at the moment, because they don't have what has been. I mean, at the moment, it depends on the age, I know, but in general, it's like they don't have all this that we had 1 year almost before, where we went out, went to pubs, and meet people, went to exhibitions, went to a concert, were actually listening to music live, and not on your Bluetooth box. You know what it's
Yeah, no, it's true.
completely
No,
different
absolutely.
approach to cultures and everything, to experience them. And at the moment, how we experience, it's like, I'm wondering if, like, art shows happening online, I think, for me personally, there's nothing more boring than this. I never attended one. I think one, because there was a 3D room where you can walk through of the actual gallery, but I think there was nothing more boring than that.
I think it's because it's not a real experience, is it? It's a virtual experience. It's something that you've already experienced, so you kind of understand it's not the
Yeah,
same.
exactly. It's like, yeah, I think art in general, whatever it is, even if it can be a theater play or a concert or anything online, it's like watching a YouTube video, but it's not really experience the environment, the people, the atmosphere. I mean, you can turn on your speaker as loud as it can, then you maybe have an impression of a concert, but you know what I mean?
It's not going to be the
Yeah,
same thing. Yeah, you don't get the whole environment and
yeah.
atmosphere. And actually, that leads on well to a question I was going to ask you. So actually, I'll ask you now: is do you think that your work translates while online?
I mean, regarding the images, the paintings or the graffitis, let's say, it works online, but the installations, you will never have, even if you do a VR, whatever 3D thing, I think you don't have the same impression of the work uh, as when you see it on a festival or in a gallery. Because just
Absolutely.
imagine you click online, yeah, I want to go inside the gallery, like it's virtual, right? But you miss the whole way from your house door to actually go to the gallery. You don't take your bicycle, your public transport, your car. You don't experience everything on the street, what will happen, or you don't go to a kiosk to meet friends and buy a beer and then go to the gallery. You just click on on a website. I mean, this is no, it doesn't work.
Not ideal.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? I mean, it could work on some circumstances, I guess, but I think the thing is that art's not made for viewing primarily online, and I think because of that, I think it changes the way people interact with it. And actually, that will move the conversation on quite nicely actually to quite a large section I have, but then we'll condense it down. Okay, so let's talk a bit about social media, which is probably not what we'll be talking about, but let's talk a bit about social media. So how has social media impacted your work and the way you create it?
I think it actually my work has nothing to do with social media in general. I mean, I post my work on social media, and okay, I did this exhibition with the broken screens, which is related a bit to social media, but it's more related to electronic devices and how we see our environment. But in general, I think it could be interesting to do more work, especially for social media that is related to it. But uh, maybe I'm a bit old school. I like
Nothing wrong with that.
I like more the way if you experience it yourself or the audience or going to a gallery or whatever.
So, do you think that the easy access to art has changed the way people view like the creation and value and time and effort it takes to create the art? Do you think that it's impacted? Do you think that the impact of art has been lessened because we see it online?
No, I think I just another little story. I talk to friends about it a lot. It's like we talk about the algorithm. We talk about the how uh, how many posts when you have to post and you have to do stories and blah blah blah. And it takes time, and it's actually you are your own company. You are promoting yourself, which is part of the business in a way, and it's a good thing that you can actually do it because before the internet, that then you just had exhibitions, you had maybe magazines and catalogs or books or whatever. So it's good for the artist or for the art itself, but um I think we talked about it. It's like, no, you don't have to post every day. You don't. Nobody tells you to do this. It's just for yourself. And to be honest, it would be interesting to calculate the time I spent on social media, and at that time I could have painted. Actually, you know what I mean? I could have.
Yes. Yeah, but so how do you balance that? How do you balance like making sure that you are spending time on social media proactively with actually creating work? Because I think obviously the problem you have is, you could spend so much time on social media that you don't create the work.
I think for me it's very simple. If I put my mobile in the kitchen and I paint in the living room, because at the moment I work from home, I that's something that helps a lot, because you stop thinking about I check on Instagram or I look here and there, whatever. You don't get distracted if you have your mobile next to you. And I always put it on silent mode, so it will not distract me from work. So I think the most important part is your self discipline regarding how much time you spend on mobile, or on your computer or whatever. And because actually I prefer to paint instead of spending time on social media. I
Of
mean, it's
course, no, of course,
entertaining,
absolutely.
and you see what your friends are painting, or where they are on a holiday. Okay, this is not happening at the moment, but you know what I mean. It's like,
But yeah, you see what other people are
yeah.
experiencing.
So the most important part of the whole thing is that you have to have a discipline, and you have to focus on your work and not what somebody says on Instagram, which is interesting as well. But in the end, you want to create something, and you don't want to consume time. So it's very easy for me, because I want to create. I don't want to spend too much time on consuming.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to put it, actually, in terms of the consumption. Because you're right, because that's what you want. That's what you want other people to do to your work. You want other people to be looking at your work and consuming your work, rather than you be spending, that time. I think really it's about time. It's about balance, and it's about just being careful that you're making the most out of the time you have and you're being productive. I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah,
Um,
I,
I guess. So, how important is it for you to take note of what other people are doing, or do you not care?
I think it's very important, because I think it's a huge motivation. If you see, like, for example, if I have my group of friends and I see what they are doing, then I'm really motivated, because I think they did really really nice work, and I want to create also nice work. But I mean, in my way, what I'm doing. But it's a big, yeah, it's a big motivation to see what other people are doing, and it's inspiring, and it's keeps your engine alive. I don't know if you can say that, but
Yeah, no, of course, yeah,
it,
yeah, keeps it
yeah,
running, I
keeps it
guess.
running. Sorry, yeah, yeah.
No, it's fine. And so, do you feel like you're part of a larger art community?
Yeah, I think so, because I paint graffiti for over 30 years now. So I think I'm part of that. I wouldn't say, yeah, maybe community or maybe culture. For me, it's more, I'm part of that culture, which is for me really important, because I never spent so much time in my whole life on one thing. And this is one thing. I'm from, of course, I'm not doing classic graffiti anymore, but I still look at it, and I buy magazines and books about it, so I'm still into this culture.
Yeah, and your work definitely retains elements of it still, like very much so.
Yeah, I would say so. That's for me really important as well, that people can maybe identify where I'm from, that they can see this guy is more from the graffiti scene, but the work I'm doing now, I would say, is, yeah, if it's post graffiti or contemporary, I would. This is where I moved to, but my origin is the graffiti culture, actually.
So, do you believe in originality in art, and do you care about your work being original?
Definitely, I think this is the most hardest part, to have, let's say, your own style, that you are original, that people can identify your work, that it is your work. I think this is the main goal for an artist, or for me personally. I think, it's like, I don't want to do pop art Mickey Mouse, because it's not my type of thing, but people can paint whatever they like. I don't mind. But I think it's not very original to paint a Mickey Mouse with a skull head, or with a skull. And this is something that is, I don't know if I want to be well known for that. You know what I mean? It's a, even
Yeah, of course.
if even if not many people like my work, but I'm kind of original and they can identify my work, then it's perfect. Actually, it's. I think it's a big question of reputation and how well you are known and everything. But in general, for me, the main goal is to evolve as an artist, and to keep going, and to be original. I mean, this is like the classic masters or contemporary artists who have found their own language and their own aesthetics. That is a really high goal to reach, I guess.
So, how do you stay motivated to create new work?
uh, Getting drunk, taking a lot of drugs. No, uh, no, just joking. I think the main thing for me is to keep going as an artist is this yeah, you can say it like this. I hope it's the self criticism, because I'm very critic about my work. But I think it's normal. If I finish a work, put it aside, then I look at it the other day after whatever, slept one night, then I think, I like it, yeah, cool. And then the second day, I don't like it anymore. And I think about the process. How can the next work be better in my whatever, it's like in my opinion, or my I don't know, in my, it's not measurement, but it's I don't know the word for it, but how I rate the work. It's like, let's say when I did it, I liked it, so my rating was really high. Then the next day, the rating was still okay, and then the second day it was like really bad. The rating, how I rated for myself.
I guess it's like a quest to create the perfect image that you really like, but then whilst also knowing that you'll never quite do that, because that way, if you do so, you'll stop wanting to create anything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sometimes it's strange, because people promote themselves as, this is my greatest work I have done, and I have to laugh about it, because it if you say this is the greatest thing you have ever done, then you can stop creating, then you can stop being an artist, or you will do it over and over again, which is okay. I mean, I don't mind. But it's, if you say it's the greatest thing you created, I just have to laugh about it, because 1 week later you could create something else, because you got more inspiration, you see other things, you have ideas, and you want to do something. I mean, this is the engine that is running, and if you turn off the engine, then yeah, then nothing else will happen. And it's like, this is something I can't understand, that people, I mean, it could be something they say, whatever, to promote themselves, or it's a marketing thing or whatever. But in general, I think from an artistic point of view, this is the end of the story. It's like, then you can go to and work in a factory. Then you are done with art. If you
I think that really is, it's not really an artist's place to say what their best work is, because I think that's for the public to decide.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you can be satisfied and you can be proud of
Yeah,
yourself, of the work you
it
did.
should be,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's, of course, you have the self criticism about your work, but yeah, the public judge your work or the visitors of the exhibition or whatever, but it's like if you enjoy doing it and people don't like it, okay, then they don't like it, but you enjoy creating it. So
Absolutely.
this is the most important part. It's very egoistic, but this is what it's all about. I think I'm not only creating work for people that they like it, I'm also creating it for myself.
Yes, absolutely. Like, absolutely. So what kind of responses do you hope that your work creates? And what kind of, conversation do you want to create with it?
Yeah, it would be a bit more than a mobile photo, I think. Nah, but I mean, this is something, this is when people take photos, it's like they like it. It's a very easy
Yeah.
thing to recognize when people are in an exhibition and they take a photo of your work, which is kind of a compliment, but which is in a way it's in their camera roll with 8,000 other images. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, it's I think it is very important in a way, but yeah, I think the interaction with people, with visitors or anything is really really important. I mean, I have friends who are not, they are not shy, but they're introverted. Can you say that? Yeah.
Yes, introverted,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so they don't want to talk about with people about their art. It just depends. I mean, I don't force it, but if there's a conversation going on or starting, then I like to talk to people because I get a feedback, which is really important about my work and process and me as a person as well, personally. Yeah.
And what kind of, I was just about to ask you that question as well. So what kind of feedback is the most valuable to you as an artist?
I have no idea. I mean, because I don't know what is the most valuable. I mean, if it's like, okay, if somebody buys an artwork, this is really valuable, but in a very simple way. It's like, okay, he appreciates the work and he really likes it and he wants to hang it in his house or office, so he buys the artwork, which is a lot of appreciation. But I think for me the most valuable is from friends and family, what I get as a feedback. This is for me really because they follow my work for a long time. And also if it's a negative one or constructive feedback, it's really rich for me to get in something like that.
Absolutely. And do you create for a specific audience in mind?
What kind of audience?
Do you create for a specific
No.
audience? So do you have like a certain
Okay.
person you create
Oh,
for?
sorry, no. I think because it's quite funny when I do installations, a lot of kids want to play with it. They want to climb up and they want to use it actually, which is perfect. But sometimes it's not built for that, and it can be a bit dangerous.
Yeah,
So,
dangerous.
so honestly, for me, it would be one of my goals in life. I would love to design a playground for children. That would be amazing.
That's so cool.
That would be really great. I'm just wondering why the government doesn't work in this field with artists. I'm just wondering because a lot
Yeah,
of
that's true.
playgrounds, they look horrible. I mean, they work in a way because kids don't mind. They want to climb up, jump somewhere around and stuff, but it would be because they spend already a lot of money on playgrounds. Why don't they involve artists? And they have a certain budget, and they say, okay, the company who is building the elements for a playground or whatever it is, they work together with an artist. Why is this not happening? And is really nice because families spend their time, kids spend their time, and they use it. It's not just to look at it. They
Yeah.
interact the best way they can do. Kids play with your installation. I think that would be awesome. Yeah, like,
That's a great idea. I think that's such a good idea, and I think it would suit your work so well as well. Like, I think you'd be an artist to contribute to that, because I think your work lends itself very well to that.
yeah, it would be actually that is something I really would like to do, actually, to do something like that. Even, I mean, even if you look on a bigger scale, why not have a kind of theme park, amusement park that is being created by artists, where
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a great idea.
it could be something really simple. You have a cinema, or you have a concert hall, but it is designed by artists or with artists and architects. It's like, there's so many options, and I'm just wondering why everything is a bit categorized. Everything is a bit in a box, but these boxes are not connected in a way. I mean, already one British famous artist did an amusement park, but that was really something that caught my attention, actually.
Of course, yeah. But then again, the problem with that obviously that's not a necessarily accessible idea to a lot of artists. Like, that requires obviously a lot of budget, a lot of time, a lot of effort. Something that don't necessarily have the resources they don't necessarily have, I guess.
Yeah,
So I think, yeah, working with the government would be a great idea. I think that's a really cool idea, and I think that'd be really good to see. Either really good to see art just involved more with the everyday. I think
yeah.
just even the small thing, even the small things, like, very much so. Yeah, is there a difference between making art and being an artist?
No, I don't know. No, I think that no, there's no difference. It's quite tough. I just think about it. Is there the difference between making art and being an artist? No, I mean, it's a as an artist, you have a bit of you have your own lifestyle. So you are creating and you are making art, and you live as an artist as well, because you have a different side. I don't know if you can say that, different approach to things, or how you look at things. It's not like, if you create something, then I think you have a different approach to life in general, I would say. I mean, I would say the main goal of an artist is not to have a house, a car, a boat, a dog, two kids, and a wife, or the very common things in society. I think this is not the main goal. You have a different approach to life, because you are creating, and you are all the time thinking, or you are thinking about the creative process. And yeah, that's 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 what I think about art, because I can just talk about me personally, how I look at things, and what I enjoy, which is not, in a way, maybe not the average, whatever what people do after they finish school or whatever.
What do you do when you're not creating art?
Yeah, at the moment. No, but when I'm not painting, I'm meeting friends, like what everybody is doing. There's nothing much special about it. It's like what everybody's like before everything. Now this happened. I mean, meeting friends, going to exhibitions, and running around, and yeah, whatever, and enjoying life. But I think art is a big part. So everything is, in a way, connected to art, I think. So whatever you are doing, even if you're whatever, if I go to my hometown to visit my family, or if I go on holiday, it's always in a way not related, but there's always something that, I mean, let's say, for example, if I go to Paris or London, of course I go to see the city and go a little bit shopping and go to museums, to exhibitions, maybe know some people. I would visit them in their studios, go for food. You know, it's like a mix of very common things, but it's always connected in a way to art, I think.
That's absolutely great. I think that's great. And I think that really kind of drives home the point of art being a lifestyle, like being an artist is a lifestyle as opposed to just creating art, say like on the weekends or something. I think you kind of see the world very differently and you see the opportunities of the world very differently.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's in a way you choose a lifestyle that can be really tough to survive in society. It could be more easy if you have, uh, let's say, if you are employed in a company and you have your car and you can go back to your house and whatever. But it's in general, I think, is about what you enjoy doing. You know, you can enjoy working as an employee, why not? You know, but I think a lot of people are frustrated in, because it's what I ask myself sometimes is like, why people go to work and they are complaining all time, and they are looking forward to the weekend to actually enjoy life, and then on Monday this routine starts again, but they don't change the routine. And of course, if you have a family, you are responsible for your kids, and you have to earn money to make all this working. But I'm just wondering, why do you complain about your job? Is it not possible to change? Do you have till you retire to do the job and you are bored of it, and then you enjoy life 2 days a week, on Friday or Saturday, Sunday? It's quite weird for me.
I think that's probably one of the good things about the pandemic, I guess, is that it's given a lot of people, not everybody, but like a lot of people more time than they would have normally had. So I think people are probably, in some ways, enjoying themselves, even though I think there's a lot more stress and pressure because of finances. But I think in some ways, people are enjoying the time they have, or at least not taking it for granted.
I think, yeah, I think some people do. I think for some people it's really tough, because if when the
Absolutely.
schools are closed and you have your kid or your kids at home and they are quite young, then I think it's really tough for families. I mean, we all know, I don't know, I think it's everywhere in the world, that people who are kind of stuck at home and work at home, that the violence within families increases, which is really really sad, and it's really really bad. I mean, this is a really really negative part about it, but I think it, as you said, it has also positive effect to the
Absolutely.
people. You know, it's definitely, yeah.
Well, I think I'll ask you two more questions. So the first question is, what are you currently working on?
At the moment, I'm working on two canvases, because I'm at home a lot of time, and I want to go on with the canvas work I did the last months, because I got good feedback. So we are back again on this, and this makes the engine running. So I want to go on with this, and I want to think about more. And I mean, it's a daily process to actually sketch your ideas you have about things you want to do, and about maybe different materials. I was thinking about, because a friend of mine, she is a fashion designer, so she knows a lot about garments and stuff. And I was thinking to maybe put this in my work as well, that not everything has to be built out of wood, use
Absolutely, that'd be so cool.
different materials and stuff. So, but actually, I'm more into painting at the moment. I mean, the weather is getting really bad at the moment, so it's not really easy to do something outside. And yeah, but this is what I'm doing at the moment. I mean, yeah.
Just staying productive. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I have to. Otherwise, no, it doesn't work. Netflix doesn't work every day, all the time. No, definitely not. No, but it's quite funny because I watch a lot of movies and series online, but I changed a bit because I I didn't have it done before way more. Of course, I have done it, but I mean, you watch a series and you want to watch another episode because you want to see how it goes on and blah, blah, blah. It's a time killer. But I started to watch more documentaries, way more documentaries
Yeah.
about artists, about certain times in whatever, about specific artistic episodes. I don't know if you can say that, but like,
Yeah, no, of course.
yeah, but it's because you watch something that is satisfying in a way, but you have a lot of more impact actually for yourself
Do you have any recommendations?
on documentaries. Or
Yeah.
the last one I watched, it was more or less about the suprematism. It's from the 1920s, the art form that was part of the futurism and cubism. I mean, the suprematists, they came from Russia. It was El Lissitzky. I think that was the last documentary I saw about El Lissitzky and about his life and his work, and how he connected graphic design or art into graphic design and into architecture, which is actually what, in a way, fits quite well to the work I'm doing. So that was really interesting because when it's in the 1920s, it's 100 years ago, but his work is more contemporary than ever, actually.
I think that's such a great idea to think about watching like art documentaries and stuff. And I think that's actually not something that I've done for a while. Actually, now I feel like I really should go and do that. That's actually a really good idea because I always like watching like artist talks.
Yeah.
Like I really like that. I like seeing how people talk about their work. But yeah, absolutely, I think that's a great idea. I'm actually really inspired to go and do that. I've got a day off tomorrow, so I know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
Also, so the last question would be, where can people find more about you and your work?
Very easy. Just on Instagram, just BASE23 art, or my website base23art.com. So that's very easy. And this is where the latest work is on, but I would recommend the website because the images are bigger and yeah, it's more,
Yes, of
I
course.
think, on the mobile it works.
You get also your website's very descriptive as well. Like you have a lot of text about the work itself, which is, I think, it helps.
Yeah, yeah. As we talked before about it, the idea for me is very important, and to transport an idea on Instagram is not so easy because honestly, a lot of people don't read on Instagram, I guess, or
Yeah,
let's say 2 sentences and that's it. But if you want to have a proper description about your work, then the website works way better.
absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your
Yeah,
time.
sure. You're welcome.
Honestly, I had an absolute great time. I'd love to do this again at some point. That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much for inviting me.
No,
Yeah.
absolute problem. No problem. You're more than welcome. And thank you for creating. That concludes this interview with BASE23. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any comments or questions, please shoot me an email at theflyingfruitbowl@gmail.com. Also, the Flying Fruit Bowl audio interviews are available on platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Music. So if you like the show, Please support it by subscribing or sharing with friends. As well as these audio interviews, I run the flyingfruitbowl.co.uk, which is a daily art inspiration website. If you're a fan of art and are looking to be inspired, please check it out. And if you're a creative, please get in touch for a chance to be featured or interviewed. Once again, thanks very much for listening, and until next time folks, please stay safe.